Thank you, Paul. So the purpose of my paper is not really to bore you with a lot of technical information, but because of the theme is all about collaboration, and hopefully you've just enjoyed a really good hour upstairs networking with all the suppliers. So if you think of what's gone on in the world recently, I'm sure you'll agree with me that there's been some really sad situations that we've had to deal with. And one of the things that I think everybody in the room is going to relate to is what's been happening. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that our winters are getting wetter. We can look at the pictures on the screen. We can see with global warming, whether you're a believer, whether you're a skeptic or not, you know, we've taken all the natural products in this wonderful planet Earth that we live in, and then we're burning it and putting all these emissions up into the atmosphere, which are having an effect on us. But not only us, we got to think of the future generations to come. So there's not a country in the world where there's not some flooding events that are going on, maybe fire because of the temperature rises. We can see the hurricanes, all these natural events as well as some which are man-made. So we can see that people are upset and they want to do something about it. So of course, as governments and as local authorities, what do we decide to do? Well, I'm sure you'll agree that when you see these two words, climate emergency. So as you can see from the report, nearly every local authority across the UK decided to declare a climate emergency. And what did that mean? Well, it meant different things to different organisations. But everybody acknowledged that they needed to do something. So there were lots of meetings of the great and the good who would sit round tables and say, right, what are we going to do as part of the climate emergency? And so in essence, from my background, and as chair of the UK Lighting and Technology Board, we looked at lighting. And as you can see from the chart, we're doing pretty well, because we thought if we put LED lighting everywhere, we're going to save a load of energy. Not only is it going to save a lot of money for the local authority, it'll save a lot of carbon. Now, I'm quite pleased when I put this slide up, because you'll notice that in Wales, over 67% of the lighting stock is now LED. So we are leading the way. But there's still quite a lot to do. And I'm sure that your respective organisations try your best to basically install more LED lighting. But that's just one part of the journey. So for example, in Wales, we started a few years ago, 21 gigawatt hours of electricity being consumed. And we started installing LED lighting, and we're down to about 14.5 gigawatt hours of electricity, which is good. But if we're going to keep the street lights on, we're going to plateau out. We're going to get to that sort of zone where we're not going to be able to do anything else. So we sat round the table and we thought, right, we've got all these street lights on the strategic road network, the motorway and the 8 trunk roads in Wales. We've converted them to LED, but yet we got them on all night when the traffic flows are low. And as the saying there, the lighting of empty highways is very wasteful. Now, I'm sure when you all go home after the conference, when you get home, you're going to, when you go to bed at night, you don't just leave all the lights on in your house just in case. You turn the lights off because you don't need them. So we thought, what can we do to dim the lights? Now, this isn't new. The dimming technology has been around, and working with partners has been around with technology to do this sort of thing. But what we really wanted to do was to get everybody who's involved in our little sector around the table and get this sorted. So we looked at what guidance was available, and obviously the Institution of Lighting Professionals has some guidance and some good documents to tell us what we can do, because we don't just want to haphazardly turn lights off, dim lights down, just on say-so. So we looked at the best practice guidance, and we thought that was quite useful. And that's a document which is available, and I'm sure your lighting teams will be aware of that. And then we got everybody together. And this really is what this presentation is about. It's about collaboration. It's about getting different people together. Now, in the past, perhaps these companies that you can see on the slide would have all done, they are the leading organizations in their own particular fields. But how do I, as a client, get everybody together to say, this is the challenge I've got. How can we make this happen? And you see over the next couple of slides how basically each of these organizations worked really well with the Welsh Government, but also how they worked with each other to develop some of these innovative product solutions and basically get us talking. So this is what we had. This was the challenge that I set all of the supply chain. So we've got our motorway, the motorway around southeast Wales, if you know it, from the Prince of Wales Bridge across into Cardiff, the busiest part of our network in Wales, an AADT of around about 120,000 vehicles a day. But during the night, that drops off like a cliff. It's not used at night. So what we wanted to be able to do was count the cars. After we've counted the cars, we would then use that information to trigger the street lights to dim up and down. So it's quite a simple solution, but that's easy for me to say. It's not as easy to do that in practice. And as you can see on the right of the slide there, it's getting the different organizations to talk together to share that information to make it work. So this little video, I thought our friends from Orange Tech actually provided this little video for us. And this would be the utopia of being able to have the right light on at the right time at the right place. So as the road user or the pedestrian would be using the network, the right light would become on and would go off. So it could really save, instead of just thinking, we just have lights on everywhere. And obviously some of this work is being looked at through the live labs, and work is being done by lots of organizations to see how we can save on the energy usage across the UK. Because we need to make sure that we are just using the right amount of energy at the right time. So where do we start on this journey? Well, firstly, we've got to count cars. And at an Elprig event, Renix were here and they presented a new piece of technology to them, was the side firing radar. And we thought this seems pretty good. Brought across from the United States, and we know how wide their carriageways are. So it's 16 lanes, side firing radar. But we thought we can't just put this technology out there. We've got to compare it to the existing technology. So what do we do? Well, you can see on the graph where we've got the blue line is the radar and the grey line is the loops that are in the ground. Now, the loops have been in the ground for decades, and we know exactly that if a car passes a loop, it triggers as a count. So we needed to make sure that the radar was going to be comparative with the loops. So we did some testing, and if you can see the graph, we're pretty confident that the radar is good technology to use. So this was on a 6-lane, 3-lane in each direction section of the M4 down by Newport. So we thought, right, great, we can now count cars. But what are we going to do with that? Well, obviously the contractor installed it on a piece of hardware, and we got it up and running. But then we needed to get that data somewhere. So our partner, which looks after all of our traffic count loop data in Welsh Government, is Clearview. And so we set the challenge to the Clearview team. We've got this bit of equipment, which is counting cars. We need to get this into your system. So they said, it's a good challenge. So they went off with their best geeks that could, and they basically sat around the table, talked to the Renix team, got all the information so that we could take that data into the Insight platform. And so you can see then that the counting of the cars and the data coming in to the platform was so beneficial. So that's the next part of the journey. We've got the data from the roadside now into a computer. So we now know exactly, again, not rocket science. We've been counting cars for millennia. But it's just showing how important it is that as each of these companies will collaborate and work one with another. So we now had the data in the system. We then had traffic data modeling. So we could now tell exactly how many cars were on the M4 at any point in time. So we then set some thresholds. So we thought, right, well, what we would like to do is if the vehicle count is over 2,500 vehicles an hour, we'll keep the lights at 100%. That means that motorway is pretty busy. But then as the traffic levels drop down, we wanted to dim the lights accordingly, because you don't need then, with a less traffic volume, you don't need those level of lighting. So we set some thresholds. But our lighting system, as I've already said on this journey, we already got LED lighting. But we'd already installed some CMS, Central Management System. Again, nothing new with CMS. There are a number of CMS suppliers out there. We use Talensa on the motorway in South Wales. And so every streetlight had a node on it. And we said, wouldn't it be good if the Clearview system, now we've counted the cars, we've got it into the Clearview system, so the next step of the journey is to get it into Talensa to set those thresholds. But of course, Talensa is very good as a CMS, but they don't count cars. They haven't got a data hub. So again, it was getting everyone round the table, basically having collaboration, the talks, the discussions, to make sure that those lighting levels could be set based on the thresholds that we put in the system. So Talensa then had to write some code to work with Clearview to get the systems talking. And we were quite pleased because, this is what we wanted to happen. So Talensa did their work. But there was also some other work that needed to be done because we've got an inventory of all our lights. Now, it's all well and good saying, well, if the street light is 100% on, but 100% of what? So our inventory, our asset management system, is supplied by WDM. And so we set WDM a challenge. We said, we need your system to talk to Talensa because I've got my inventory of streetlights over here and Talensa has an inventory, but that inventory has got to be the same. So again, more discussions, more talking, more Teams calls. The techie teams in both departments having those discussions to get the WDM system to talk to Talensa. And then, as you can see on the chart, it's not an interesting map, but that basically is the flow of how I get my electricity bills, and EDF is the supplier who supply Welsh Government, and so I spend about £4 million a year on lighting energy generated through the bills. But hopefully you can see how important the collaboration was on this journey. So remember, 10 minutes ago I said I had a problem. I got many problems. I'm not going to share them today. But when we think about that problem, I wanted to be able to dim the lights based on traffic flows. Quite a simple request, or so you would think. But what we had to do is get everybody together. Collaboration, as the slide says, it is the key. The way we made it work is all of those organizations are LTRIG members. At meetings, we've met at Strictly, we've met at the Innovation Festival, we've met at the TTF conferences, and it's so important. We are living in times that perhaps some of us have never lived through before. We've gone through financial crashes, changes of government, we've lived through a pandemic, and yet it's so good as a sector, we can get together. The suppliers upstairs in those rooms want to help the clients. The clients want to help the public who will be the users of the road network. So it's so important that we can collaborate. And sometimes it's easier than not. Sometimes there are commercials and company A doesn't want to talk to company B because they want to have everything. But isn't it better if we could share the cake out and different organizations are the best in their particular way? As the saying is, there's no I in team. If we only are doing one thing and staying in our silos, we'll never progress. So going back to the slide, the collaboration. Those organizations, and I think they're all in the room today, it really shows the benefits of being able to work together. But what is the gel which helps? Well, we've got to say, why are we all here today? LTRIG has really helped us by pulling those organizations together, by pulling the clients together. It shows that simple problem I had wanting to dim those lights on the M4, it was quite a complex process when you look at it. But through talking and companies working together and companies seeing the benefits, we've come on leaps and bounds. And here we are now at the end of 2024. We never thought that this would happen. But here we've got it done. And in some small ways, this presentation could be replicated in lots of different things that you do, whether it's from the highways, drainage, street lighting, technology. The collaboration is so important. We see some of the smaller startup organizations that bring some of the innovations to the market. We've talked about the PAS this morning. We've been doing scanner and sending scanner machines around for decades. But yet, is that always the best thing? We can take the scanner data and use it in a different way. We can use some of these innovators and use it in a different way. And that's so important, isn't it? That we look at things slightly differently. But also it's important that we share some of these thoughts and some of these ideas with the next generation. There is a massive skill shortage in the industry. It's so important that the technicians and the graduates and those who are on these trainee schemes working their way through, we share that knowledge, but we also listen to them because that's the next generation of ones with ideas. And they think it's quite easy. Well, why can't that company talk to that company? And then you sit down and you work it through, and sometimes it's possible, and sometimes it's not. But hopefully you've seen from these couple of slides, but being part of the Elcrig family really has helped us. It's helped us in Welsh Government deliver a product which I wanted a solution to. And hopefully you can see that there'll be lots of other solutions to product problems that you have as well with some of the suppliers. Just have a chat with those around your table. Find out who you're working with. Find out what are other problems, whether that's in the public sector or private sector. I'm sure you'll enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.